Here we start. Recording has started. Welcome.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Christy Speed, Director of Marketing and Communications at FMS, and we are so glad that you've joined us for our second session in the Supermarket Math webinar series. So whether this is your first time joining or you're returning from the first session, welcome back. We're excited to keep building on the great momentum and continue sharing tools to help you better understand and manage your store's numbers. Just a quick reminder before we begin, today's session is being recorded and will be available. I'll put it on our YouTube channel later. We also encourage you to join the conversation. So use the chat and let us know where you're tuning in from, share your thoughts, add questions, anything in the discussion throughout the session. Now, let me introduce today's speakers. We're kicking things off with Harold Lloyd of Harold Lloyd Presents. Harold is a respected voice in the retail space and a longtime favorite among grocers for his practical, engaging insights. And we're thrilled to have him leading us again today. Following Harold, you'll hear from John Klein, FMS's Client Relationship Officer. John brings decades of experience across operations, finance, and strategy in the grocery sector. So let's get started. Welcome, Harold.
I like that respected voice. Thank you very much. That's nice. Respected voice. Thank you for
I typed that
us,
up.
folks.
I said irritating, Christy, not respected.
Sorry, I missed it.
No, respected is much better than irritating, but irritating may be more accurate. Hey, folks, welcome. And I'm so excited that you wanted session 2. And as a result of your desire to add so much to session 2, we're going to add one more session after this in session 3 in August. We'll get to that later. Today's agenda, though, we're going to start with the new material, and then I'm going to, which would be John, and then I'm going to come back when John's done and go with a review of session 1. So many of you said, you didn't explain the math behind the numbers. And I never promised to do that. I said it was an assessment. We are to see how dumb you are or how smart you are with regard to supermarket math. It was a call to action, if you will. Do I need help or am I okay? So apparently a lot of you said I need more help. And so I have some of the math you asked for. In about 30 minutes, I'm going to go through some of the most the 6 most missed questions and explain them to you. But before I get to that, John's going to teach us session 2. And here it goes. You see the agenda. So comments in session 1, I just made them. We're going to go into the foundation of profitability, why KPIs, key performance indicators, matter so much, and those that you should really be aware of, sales performance measurements, and gross margin analysis. We drew a line there because that's all we think you could take and we could give in one session. And then I'm going to take 15 minutes to maybe 15 to 20 minutes to do that wrap up of session 1. Okay, that's it. Session 1, then session 2 today, and session 3 in August. John Klein, take it away. Session 2.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Harold. And Christy, if you'll from henceforth
Yes,
admit anybody else that joins the meeting.
I got it.
So a bit, I think my title is Chief Client Relationship Officer in our company, but I'm a CPA. I'm an accountant. I've worked as an accountant in an operations and in marketing, frankly, for my entire career after starting out in auditing. But for the 17 years, I'm one of the owners of our company. The 17 years I've been at FMS, my bailiwick is accounting. So, I say that to say this is each of you and your companies do accounting differently. I mean, we service 7,000 stores throughout the U.S. and each of them are unique, right? We always like to say there's about 70% DNA match and about 30% individuality. So some of the examples, some of the formulas that we may give you, your company may well do those differently than others. For example, a co-op, AWG. If you're an AWG customer, they have patronage at end of year. Some of our clients absorb that into gross margin. Some of our clients put that into other income. So, as I said in the last meeting, try not to get so into the detail, into the math, and think about it more from a theoretical standpoint as well as we get done. Just as everybody does accounting differently, everybody goes to market differently. Some are upscale. Some are, price formats and everything in between, right? So, Every solid business plan for a retailer starts with your potential to generate sales and, more significantly, gross margin dollars. You don't pay your bills, if you're a good business, you don't pay your bills with sales. You pay it with the gross margin that you made from those sales. So many of the things we're going to talk about today are related to gross margin realization. End of day, if you're paying bills with sales, at some point you're going to come up short, right? So any good business plan aligns your strategy, i.e., be it a specialty food, high-end market, heavy perimeter, heavy deli, whatever it might be, to a cost plus store. You have to align your gross margin realization with your expense structures if you want to be profitable. In a very simple example, if you've got a weekly sales plan of 500,000, which is a big store, and you think you're going to yield from that 24% margin, you can't therefore also have 26% long-term expenses long-term. It just the math doesn't work. And in the next session, we'll get into some of those ratios, but what we call below the line, above the line being sales and margin, below the line being operating expenses. We'll talk about some of those in the late August session. Today we're gonna focus on above the line. Christy, you'll go. Thank you. So KPIs allow you, why do they matter, right? They
What
allow
are they
you
again? What KPI stand for once again? I said it once.
key performance indicator, right? And you can call them goal, yeah, they're just measurables, but they let you measure your actual results versus that business plan we spoke about earlier. And the smaller bites of time that you measure those KPIs, the more ability you have, the better ability you have to timely react to results that aren't going to plan. Because at end of day, if you the sooner you head off a cash crunch, the better. Again, to enact, go ahead and put a couple of these up, will you, Christy? Because sometimes I don't remember what I put in here. So, enact course correction. It's been a very busy month for John Klein. So, it allows you to enact course correction if necessary. It lets you have enabled and informed decisions and make operational adjustments. Maybe sales aren't what you thought they were going to be. Maybe margin realization isn't what you thought it was going to be. So maybe you've got to adjust below the line. So understanding those numbers more quickly than not lets you do that. And lastly, by department, and we'll talk about CTO next week, or next month, but contribution to overhead by department, in my opinion, might be, that's how we structure all of our standard P&Ls here in our company. If you've got a deli that maybe it's making 42% gross, which is kind of an average number, but your labor's 38, it's contributing nothing to the operation of the store, right? So we'll talk more about that next time. That whole ability to generate profit or margin dollars net of direct expenses is a key component as well. Next slide, Christy. So one of the key, in my opinion, KPIs for sales is, what is your sales per square foot? Every year for the last 2+ decades, NGA and FMS have partnered to provide the Independent Grocers Financial Survey. The average this year, and it is a multi-billion-dollar sample size survey. And in my opinion, it's the eminent survey done on independent grocers. $12.56 per square foot. Why does that matter? Let's say you've got a 50,000 square foot store and you've got a small amount of sales. Your rent, your utilities, etc., just absolutely overwhelm your ability to make profit. $12.56 is what our average was last year. Certainly a Walmart store is going to be much higher than that because of their ability to generate sales. But the average independent last year in our survey, $12.56 per square foot. That's a good benchmark for you to take back, to your store and say, what are my sales per square foot? It's also something you maybe measure by department as well. Christy? When I think of gross margin, the key performance indicators around gross margin, it's you have a sell plan going in. Each week when you formulate a business, you decide, I'm going to be heavy perimeter, I'm going to be more center store, price competitive, a little upscale, whatever it might be. You have what's called what I call gig. You're going in gross expectation, which is it's just what it says, your projected gross margin yield for the period of time, right? Uh, Easy formula. It's your anticipated sales, budgeted sales, forecasted sales, whatever you want to call that, minus the expected cost of goods divided by those anticipated sales. So let's say you're a 34-30 retail business plan, meaning 34% gross margin, 30% below the line expenses to yield 4, right? Which would be very good. If that's the case, your gig plan needs to be 34 or above. You're going out gross. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. We'll talk about some of those variables in the next slide. Going out gross is what you actually earned, right? It's after cost of goods and shrink. And now we're back to that whole notion. When I say cost of goods or purchases, I'm blending in rebates into that. I exclude any sort of co-op patronage, but any vendor rebates I put as a contra or a decline, a de minimis, minimizing your cost of goods. Formula for GOG, just that, actual sales minus purchases. But here we also bring into effect plus or minus your inventory change. And what does that mean? So when you never sell, unless you're a very small one item business, you never sell exactly what you purchase. So your inventories are going to go up or down. If, for example, I had $20,000 of produce inventory at the beginning of the month, and at the end I had 16, that 4,000 was consumed, and so you need to include that in your calculation. So going out gross, actual sales, less purchases, or cost of goods, whatever you want to call it, plus or minus inventory change. Next slide, Christy. Why do we miss gig? A lot of reasons. Let's say you put together a great ad and you had far deeper ad penetration than you thought you would have. I mean, ad markdowns typically are they're a degradation of margin. You've decided to try to stimulate overall store sales by introducing a quality ad and an appetizing ad to your customers. Sometimes that ad penetration is deeper. Are you updating pricing? That was a huge problem when we got into the inflationary periods of 20 through 23. There were so many price changes literally on a daily basis. Customers couldn't keep up with them. We still have those today. While if inflation has abated, it's still there. And what we've seen of late is it hits sectors hard. Beef right now is high. Eggs at the last holiday season were through the roof. If you weren't updating those prices, you were taking it as a reduction of gross margin. Shrink. Harold,
John, one
yep,
second,
yes.
please. John, 1 second. Let's go back to the first bullet point. Markdown impact from deeper ad penetration. I mean, that's a term you and I understand, but I'm not sure how everyone does. What does deeper ad penetration mean? Okay.
So
Please.
when you put together your weekly ads, some people put them together 2 weeks out, 3 weeks, or 4. You have an idea of what sales that's going to generate, what percentage of your total sales that's going to represent. Let's say, just for ease of math, it's 15%. But if that turns out to be 22% or 25%, you're going to have less. Your gig was 24, but your GOG's going to be less because you sold more of your total sales on that ad versus normally priced items. It's a tough target to hit. You always wonder what your ad penetration is going to be. I will say this: what we're seeing in surveys, and if you get a chance to go to one of our presentations, and Chris, we may have one online that you talk about later that talks about the last survey. Shoppers they're changing patterns because of inflation, because of SNAP cuts, etc. And they are changing to where they are shopping ads. They'll go to multiple retailers, and we've got some good stats on this. They're going now again, like they did in 19 and 18, going to multiple retailers to shop their ads versus a full basket of goods. You just have to take that into consideration when you're producing your ads. But that's what that means.
Yeah.
And when you think
So
about a pie chart,
if we were budgeting 1,000, we're going to sell 1,000 gallons of milk at a ridiculously low price to bring in traffic, and we end up selling 2,000 gallons.
right.
We got to factor that into our impact on our gross margin. Deeper ad penetration. Okay. Thank you.
So why are we missing target? Markdowns with deeper ad penetration not updating your pricing files. Harold, you gave a stat last week I'd never heard before. When it comes to theft in a store, you gave a staggering percentage of the time that was vendors at backdoor.
Yes.
Was that 75?
75% of the mistakes are in their favor. So if it was an honest mistake, the answer should be 50-50. I made a mistake. It's in your favor this time. It's in my favor this time. That would be an honest mistake. But it's not an honest mistake if 75% of the mistakes are made in the vendor's favor. So it's not an honest mistake anymore. It's theft. They made a mistake to take our money. That's what that number was. And that was now 3 years in a row studied, and the number hasn't varied but 1%. So it's a very accurate number. So if you're not putting your best person on that back door, I mean, really a great math person, a great people person, a great observant person, then what a mistake. And I have a receiving class in April that I've done now for 4 years, just for receivers. It's wonderful. 2 days, 4 hours a day, to help build up that education in that receiver because of that number. They're not honest mistakes, folks. They're not.
No, repetitive honest mistakes are theft.
Yeah.
But we talk about shrink. What is shrink? It's theft of product. It's product damage and spoilage. As we'll talk about at the next session, if you choose to attend, you know, I am really big on optimizing inventory turns, right? So I think the average for last year was 17.8. Grocery was about 12. If you're getting 3 grocery trucks a week, you don't need a month's supply on hand on most products. Because what happens when you have too much product on hand, you're reworking it, you're damaging it when you move it, you get out of dates, you get stales, whatever it might be. So theft, product damage and spoilage from over ordering. Make sure you're checking in product at backdoor and you're following, to Harold's point, the basic protocols. And if you all would like to do as a follow-up to this, a session 4, I suspect Harold and I could be talked into doing a session just on shrink. It's just that important. Theft and pilferage, you know, people go through the store eating grapes or strawberries from produce section. Those things happen. Lastly, sometimes we get inaccurate inventory counts. If that would probably be the first place I would check. When I was booking some inventory this morning for a client, and I noticed their produce, one of the stores, was quadruple what it was last time, and it was wrong. So we checked that out. But those are some of the common causes of missing gig. So that's what I was going to cover today. Above the line stuff, sales per square feet, the gross margin analytics. Next session, it'll be a kind of a flip flop. I'll cover more and Harold will cover less, but we'll cover inventory turns, labor averaging now about, at least in the South or Southeast, which clearly from my voice, you can tell I'm at, is about 16% and growing. States are effectuating massive minimum wage increases. Florida, which is where my wife and I live, it's going to $16 an hour by end of next year. So those things are becoming an issue, which is increasing inflation below the line. So if you have any questions, flip those through the chat to Christy and to Harold, and we'll get back to you guys with that. Appreciate you attending today. Harold, it's all yours.
Okay. And thank you, John. And thank you, folks, for putting in your chat. You helped us create session 2 because of some of your feedback last time. So if you have a question for John, please put it in the chat. John, could you explain that cog thing a little bit more? You don't have to wait for John in next year. You can always go and Google it. You can always do an AI search on it. You can always go to FMI or NGA's library to get some help on it. But if you would put it in the chat, we'd love to know what questions you would love to have answered.
We have one, guys. We have one for John. If you have a second, John.
Yeah.
Someone was asking about the 2025 benchmark. If that was a number per week, is that number per week?
It could be by week. It could be by month. I honestly don't know what my suspicion is. It's an amalgamation of several periods of time, but it doesn't really matter what you give, because I would say you'd want it on average, you'd want it longer than a week, because as it depends on what area of the world you're in, but many stores have much heavier sales at first of week and much lower at end of first of month versus end of month. I would say I would do it on a minimum of a period basis, probably a quarter more preferably.
And that was Petra Benson from manager number 75. Well, that was regarding, I think, the $12.56
That
sales
is correct.
per square foot. So that if you do it over a year time, that would be your more seasonally adjusted and everything else. So sales per square foot per year, $12.56. Is that what we're talking about, John?
Yes.
Okay, good deal. There you go. It's calculated, must be calculated per week.
I think it is. I think it is per week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it.
I was asking about 1250.
Yeah.
So everybody's looking for the 1256. I used a number that was per year, but per week, as long as you're consistent. Okay.
I think what I would do, Harold, like you said, is take annual numbers, divide it by 52, and then divide that by my selling square feet.
Okay.
Average week is what I should have said.
So we'll go with the week. That 1256 would be for the week.
Right. But it's a compiled week, correct?
Yeah. Do you see any other questions, Christy, for John?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, John.
Okay, very good. So Harold Lloyd Presents is there. So we have the materials for next session you saw were below the line that we had at the beginning. And what I want to do now is go over a little bit of what we talked about in session 1. And we did, level 1. So there was level 1 and there were 10 questions. Okay, let's go through those one at a time just to be safe. And hey, if that was, 25 minutes to give you a little bit of an update, John finished sooner than, we said 30 minutes, but he has things to do. I didn't want to give you an hour and a half of John. It's too much. I was a pretty good student in college and graduate school, but I couldn't handle the agenda as it was turned out. So we broke it in half. So if you feel like that was a good little bite and you don't need any refresher on level 1 and 2 that I'm about to review, then you can go away and join us next month in August when we have our session 3. But level 1 and level 2, it's an assessment. There's the word right there to see how you understood the math. So I'm going to go through the real quick the 10 questions on level 1. It was kind of fun, and yet you got to have some understanding of the business as well. So let's go question 1 we had down. And most people got question 1 down pretty good. 5 apples and 5 pears equal how many pieces of fruit? The only people who missed it were apparently they didn't like pears. Okay, so they're trying to, why do you pick pears? It could have been any piece of fruit. Okay, that was 5 pieces of yellow fruit and 5 pieces of green fruit. Don't read into it any more than it is. It's 10 pieces of fruit. Good. I think only 3 or 4 people got that wrong. All right. If bananas are 10% of produce department sale, this is kind of a relevant thing. This is one of my favorite first math exercises that I was exposed to and said, that really helps me understand things. Bananas are important. I have a company that I work with that they taught all their produce managers the 3 B's and 1 T. The 3 B's and 1 T. If you're a produce employee or manager, don't ever forget the 3 B's and 1 T. Before you leave to go home for the day, always check your 3 B's and 1 T. And I'm sitting there going, what the heck are the 3 B's and 1 T? I was getting ready to do my seminar, but I'm learning from this company as they're teaching their people, the managers of the store. 3 B's and 1 T. Bananas, berries, and bag salads. Bananas, berries, and bag salads, and the tea or tomatoes. This really smart company who does an incredible about investing in their training of their people gave me this little clue. And I was a produce manager a million years ago. And the idea of focusing in on 4 things. Now, I know everything's got to be perfect, but you and I both know you have 2 people call out yesterday in produce. You're down to 2, and what do? Well, make sure your 3 B's and 1 T are taken care of, because if you look good on your 3 B's and 1 T, you know what? The customers will say, that's a nice produce department. It's like, why you spend all your money on shoes and fancy socks? No one looks there. Spend your money on the tie, on this earrings or something that people see. Okay, and bananas are definitely one of those things that people see. And here's why: bananas are 10% of most of your produce department sales. And produce, on average, is 10% of store sales. The percent of sales that bananas represent of total store, you multiply 10% times 10%, you get 1%. There you go. Okay. So that was, there was I have a contest, by the way. Can you back up, Christy? Folks,
Yes.
I got a $50 gift card right here. We made a typographical error in level 1 or level 2. It wasn't this one. It wasn't this one. This question's 1 or 2, so it's either 3 through 10 or level 2, the 20 questions we had. The first person who puts in the chat the number of the question that was wrong, we did not give you the right answer, typographical error, and no one emailed us, no one texted us, but those of you who are scratching your head, really trying to study this thing and couldn't get it right, please in the chat who it gets, and we're sending you the sharpest one, the first one who says, I got it, a $50 gift card. There it is right there, $50 Visa. Tell me who the first one is, Christy, and we'll continue with the level 1 questions. Here we go. Number 3. The deli department used overtime hours last week, and you say, okay, I used a couple here, a couple there, and I used some on Wednesday. Why is this question valuable? Well, I want to teach a little arithmetic. This isn't really math. It's more of arithmetic. You would add the 7 numbers up and divide by 7, and that's the average of the hours used. So why, Harold? Well, if I use 8 hours or 16 hours on this day, I know I'm way over my normal average. So it's good. Another great rule of thumb, and I'm glad I have this time to help teach a little bit. You always budget your hour budget. You always budget your hourly budget by day. One more time. You budget your hour budget by day. So Monday, you look at Monday and go, holy crap, we are 4 hours over. Not overtime, but over our budget. But if it's overtime, that's another budget. You don't try to wait to the end of the week to try to make it up on Friday or Saturday. Never cut Saturday or Sunday because you were over Tuesday or Wednesday. If you're over on Monday, an overtime hour or a budgeted hour, you try to make it up on Tuesday. And if you can't on Tuesday, then you certainly got to make it up on Wednesday by cutting Wednesday a little bit. Don't wait to the Friday morning, go, crap, we're 20 hours over budget. We have 7 overtime hours. We're only allowed 2. Now what do? Well, we better cut Saturday because we're going to get in trouble. Manager will be yelling. And so instead of having the manager yell, you're going to have the customers yell. So please, this is a good little exercise. It's more math exercise than anything else, but that was the answer. Okay. So number 4. Bakery does 40% of store sales, and the bakery's average gross margin is 40%. What is the bakery department's contribution to the store's gross margin? You take 5%, multiply it by 40%, and you get 2%. Okay? Simple enough? It's only. Number 5, this was an answer given to you by John in the presentation. So there's no math to this. This is just listening to what John told you, right? And I believe the answer was 1.7, letter B. That's correct. Okay. Okay, here we go. Another prop. There you go. A box of Cheerios cost $3.79. Had an accidental and irreparable razor cut. You see it right there? An accidental razor cut. Oh my gosh, $3.07. Not a big deal. Some of the employees say, oh, the vendor will give us credit. That's not true. Oh, you send it back to the warehouse and blame it on them. They don't do the razor cutting, folks. good Lord will give us a rebate. We'll make it up with our rebate at the end of the year. Oh, it's only $3.79. Boy, I love teaching my employees this little example. I'd get a can of dented corn or something, and I'd hold it up and I say, do you realize how many sales we have to generate to pay for this can of corn that was dented, or this Cheerio box? And see the arrow pointing? That's the pointing at the razor cut. The answer, and it's a little bit of a math formula, is $223. What an impact to a new employee. That customer who just bought a $223 order went out the store with a whole basket shopping cart full of 7 bags, $223. You know what? We didn't get anything from her because of the razor blade accident you had with that box of Cheerios. So there you go with number 6. Number 7, contribution to overhead. John mentioned it in his opening lines in session 1. He mentioned it again today. We use CTO, we use acronyms all the time, and we don't know sometimes what they mean or what they stand for. And I wanted to see if you did, and most of you did. Contribution to overhead. What does that store generate in margin to contribute to the overall company success? What does that department do? Contribution to the overhead of running that store. Contribution to overhead. That's what the produce department contributes. That's what meat department contribution. Their contribution to the overall effort to pay the bills. That's what CTO stands for, an ROI, return on investment. I had employees say, can we get a new this machine or this new that machine? I said, okay, do a simple ROI for me. What's that? I taught my managers and some of my senior employees to do a little benefit analysis. What's the expected sales increase after a year? Okay, multiply that by 30%, store gross margin, just get a small number. And you can say, okay, it's going to be X. Will that help pay for the machine? Will that pay? It'll take me 8 years to pay for that machine. So is it worth it? There are other things that we could invest the money in that get a quicker payback, a return on the investment to buy that equipment or to do that thing in the department. What's it going to generate? Well, it always doesn't have to make money. Yeah, it kind of does. We can do some things that are for the good of all people and things, but in the end, it's got to have some kind of return on investment. Okay, good deal. Number 8. Inventory turnover. I'm glad John said what he said. He thinks that's a magical metric or KPI, is the success of ordering properly and having the right stock for the customer, not the wrong flavor. This is a frosted lemon Cheerio. I got 10 truckloads of lemon frosted. Oh crap, Harold, we don't sell any. We sell a case a month of the lemon frosted Cheerios. Well, your turnover is going to be really slow because you got the wrong inventory. So having great buyers, having observant grocery managers, key accurate orderers, very accurate receivers, so they're not bringing in the wrong thing, not accepting something shouldn't be accepting because it could sit there or have to go through the labor of shipping it back. Oh my God. So they're on their game at the back door. It never makes it through the door if it's the wrong item. 2 factors affecting inventory is the amount of inventory and your sales. Okay. Inventory to sales ratio. I like this one. This is fun. The average employees, you have 100 employees in your store, you lost 42. This was just a smoke screen, 31 full-time, 31. I call them prime timers. I can't even read that anymore. I can't stand the word part timer. Can't stand it. It just makes it sound like they're insignificant people. They're prime timers. So I called my employees prime timers who didn't work full time. Anyway, 31 prime timers and 11 full timers. That was a red herring there. Threw that out there to confuse you a little bit, but no, not many of you were confused. You just had your 42% turnover for that year. I teach that any store manager worth their salt every store manager worth their salt should know, especially if they've been in that store for 2 years, 3 years, what last year's employee turnover was, what the year before that, and what are you trending now? Employee turnover ratio is the store manager's fault. One more time. The employee turnover ratio is the store manager's credit or fault for the most part. Not entirely, but for the most part. Don't blow it off. Oh, kids today, don't blow it off. I live in a college town. Don't blame somebody else and you'll never fix the problem. Look in the mirror. What are we doing? What could we do better? And you watch your turnover percentage reduce. The other number I encourage you to learn is employee retention. Employee retention percentage. That's the average lifespan of an employee under your leadership. So you want employee retention number to grow, employee turnover percentage to drop. You understand that? I mentioned that college town. You could have a high employee turnover rate because of that college town. We know that. Most of it's not your fault. That part is not your fault. But look at your employee retention. The average employee in your store under your leadership, 6.2 years. Phenomenal. What if your employee retention average is 6 months and your turnover is high? You're a loser. You're a leader that's a loser. You should be in some kind of an assembly line working with widgets and not people. Okay, they don't want to work for you. They don't want to be with you. Know your employee turnover percentage and know your retention rate. Be proud of that. You work hard for that. I had a manager last week talk to me, say, Harold, I can't believe how life has changed. I said, well, I'm old. I remember, he goes, well, I'm not that old, but I still remember the days where you didn't have so many hours of your day spent on employee stuff. I said, well, there's no alternative but to understand that's your job now. Okay. Before it was more maybe merchandising, and now it's a lot more employee relations. The more you invest in it, the greater the payback, and people are going to want to work for you. So there's no getting around it. They don't have guidance counselors at teachers. Teachers aren't helping students anymore. They don't have guidance counselors on staff any longer. Their parents aren't together in some cases. You have to be that person that gives them the guidance. And that way you're going to improve your retention rate and improve your turnover percentage. Good deal. So 42 was the answer to number 9. And lastly, the honest mistake that John was reminded of. Folks, I'm on such a quest to have this mission accomplished. If you're a store manager and well respected, raise your hand when they ask you, do you have any ideas on how we can improve our company or our store? Raise your hand, please, and say, for me and for your company, that I think we should make all backdoor receivers a full-fledged department manager. I'm on a quest to do that before I go, ladies and gentlemen. Think I might have a couple more years left, but I'm on this mission. It started 2 years ago. The third most important person in the store. The third most important person in a supermarket today, followed by the store manager, no arguing, most important. Everyone's important. Oh, stop that crap. Okay, there's a ranking order. I know we're all important, but the number 1 is the store leader. The number 2, front-end manager. I'll argue with you on that one. I think more important than the assistant store manager is the front-end manager. They control more customer reactions. They are involved with heavier and more employee responsibilities. They have shrink issues, and they have a great chance of selling at that front end. They are so valuable, so valuable. Okay, you want to negotiate their third and the assistant manager's number 2. Okay, I won't fight you on that. 1 store manager, 2 assistant store manager, and the front end manager, but the third or fourth most important person, and I'll argue this, and I'm going to win. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. Just give me time, and I'm going to win. Is the backdoor receiver. No one else touches every product that comes in the store. No one else is responsible for as much gross margin impact as that person in the back of the store. If he or she doesn't receive it right, you can't possibly sell it correctly. If they mess up, we are toast. We can't sell it better at the front end if they don't bring it in properly in the back. So I'm just asking you, please, if you can't change the title or give them the raise they deserve, get them a seat at the table. If you haven't, God bless you, you should. Every week, a manager's meeting, invite that receiver to the manager's meeting. They need to know the events that are coming. They need to hear what gross margin challenges are coming up. Deli, the manager complains about her gross margin. This inventory's got to be, well, maybe if they pull their pallets into the cooler quicker, every time the receiver can say this, every time we get an order from our supplier, you let it sit out for 30 minutes before you get, well, I'm short-handed. Well, I didn't say you had enough employees. I'm just saying I always see the deli order sit outside the cooler for more than the 20 minutes that things are allowed. 20 minutes is the magic number. After that, the product starts to deteriorate. A great receiver knows that, and a great receiver will speak up in your manager's meeting when they hear talk about gross margin slippage. They see and hear everything that affects gross margin. And we don't even give them a title. We don't invite them to the manager's meeting. 1 in 10 calls them a manager. Only 1 in 10 on this call. I bet my life. Only 1 in 10 calls that person a manager. They're all a receiving clerk. They're the grocery clerk that couldn't make a grocery manager because they didn't get along with people that well, or maybe they just they weren't really that with it. So they didn't make manager. So let's put them on the back door because they show up. They're religious. They're always on time. Oh, that's good. Let's put a kind of a I won't say loser. Let's take someone who couldn't make a manager's job, put him on the back door, and hope he counts things right. Anyway, off my soapbox, ladies and gentlemen. Honest mistake log. Honest mistake log. It's not an honest mistake. 75% of the mistakes made at the back door are done in the vendor's favor. So the odds are against us. If we don't have a sharp shooter back there, we have no chance of making it out the front door. All right. Thank you, Christy, for level 1. A little review. I hope that helped. A lot of you asked for a review. So here, let's go with the 6 most frequently missed. So this is session 1. This is last month, but it's level 2. Remember, we did 2 levels last time. You were so good at level 1 with the 10 pieces of fruit and so on. We moved right into level 2. And there were 20 questions. The recording of that session is available if you missed that one. But I'm going to go over the 6 most missed questions, okay? And the first, if I'm correct, Christy, is the 8 mark. There you go. The 8 mark, number 8. And I'll go as slowly as you care for, and take a picture of this. These are the 6 most frequently missed questions from level 2 in session 1. Okay. If markdowns total $3,000 and sales are 75, this could be a department, a really small store, but don't get all wiggy up. My number's a lot bigger than that, or a lot smaller. Please relate. That's what John was doing with the sales per square foot. Don't worry about the number. It's how they do the math and understand the concept. If markdowns were 3,000, sales were 75,000 for the week of the month, doesn't matter. What is the percentage of markdown? And there, to find markdown percentage, divide the markdown amount by the total sales. 3,000 divided by 75 is 0.04, which changed to a percentage is 4%. Okay. Number 8.
Oops.
Number 12.
Oh, sorry, I skipped. It's 10.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was 10. Yeah, good deal. This one. So, Christy, did we have any takers?
No, we had 2, but they were the wrong one. 2 people said question 17.
Okay, very good. I admitted that 223 that before we started. Now, this was the one that we made a mistake, folks, and I apologize profusely. Number C, or letter C, we had down as 25, and the number should have been 22. So there were no takers on this one. We reread this. Christy did the slides. I reread it 3 times. I'm so sorry. When it got finally printed, letter C said 25%. The answer is 22, and here's how it works. If a store operates on a 30% gross margin, well, we're at 32. Stop it. We try to use rounded numbers for you, okay? Change yours to 32. It works. And the markdowns reduce the selling price by 10%. Somebody comes along and says, we got to mark these down. Okay, the selling price gets chopped down. What is the new effective gross margin? And so here is the answer. The markdowns reduce the selling price, not the cost. So the markdown reduced the selling price, but you still paid the same amount for that item. Okay, so the original margin was 30%. The cost of goods was 70. Now the new price is 90. The cost of goods is still the 70%. So you take the new margin, 90. Excuse me, the new price, 90% of the old price minus the original cost of goods. That's 20 divided by 90, which is 22.2. We rounded it to 22. And I think that's where the confusion, when it was 22.2, somehow it was changed to 25. And again, our apologies. But if you missed it by just a couple of points, you can go back, give yourself the credit for that one. You didn't get it wrong. We'll accept 20 or 25 for that answer. Okay. So there was the math in the lower part of this slide. This is where the answer is, and you can plug in any of your numbers and keep playing with it. These are important. This one's another very valuable one. If a product costs $3.75 and sold for $6.25, what is the gross margin percentage? This is the root of my whole intent on doing this subject, because they hear about 25% margin, you talk about 24. Well, how do they come up with these numbers? I guess it's in the computer. Well, you take the selling price, 625, minus the cost, divided by the selling price. That's a great formula to remember. SP, selling price, minus cost. In the numerator, that's the top number above the line, divided by the SP, selling price. It goes in the denominator, equals the margin. So there it is on the bottom. To find gross margin, divide the selling price, 625, minus the cost, 375. That's in the numerator, divided by the denominator, 625 is $2.50 divided by $6.25, which is 40%. Folks, this is 50% of the math that you're gonna need. So know that formula: SP minus C divided by SP equals a percentage. SP, selling price, minus cost divided by selling price. Okay. Let's see. I wasn't going to mention this, but I'm a little embarrassed. I found a document that I use with my managers. That I got from FMI 50 years ago. I found it in my file and I used it for my managers. It's got some of the simple arithmetic, the SP minus C divided by SP. If you need that, just email me and I'll send it to you. FMI won't mind. I'm not charging you for it. I'm not making money off all this. I'm doing as a teacher, not a seller, not a consultant. I'm just helping. And I checked the date. The copyright date is 50 years old. 50 years old, but the math doesn't change. If you need it, email me and I'll send it to you. I didn't want to put it out blanket. I didn't want to get FMS involved, but it was a nice little 6-page handout that I used for my department managers 50 years ago. True story. There we go. Next, number 13. All right. If the average weekly inventory on hand is $40,000, excuse me, and the annual cost of goods is $2,080,000, what is the inventory turnover rate? So here's the average weekly inventory divided by the annual cost of goods, average annual cost of goods. And you take the sales divided by the average weekly inventory on hand. And there's your turnover rate. Very simple. We average weekly beginning, ending, average divided into the annual cost of goods. There is the number of weeks we have on hand. 52 turns. 52 turns. Okay. Take a picture if you need it.
Oh, sorry.
Take a picture if you need it and kind of think about it. I'm glad you cared enough to ask. There they were. All right. I'm catching up with my slides that I have. Yeah, here the store sales increased by 15%. Or we're planning on our sales increasing by 15% with this new promotion we're going to run. But our labor costs increased by 20%. What? Oh, excuse me. The labor cost as a percentage. This is just a one-word answer. There's not much math to this one. Sales increased by 15%, but labor increased by 20% when minimum wage is kicked in. Oh my gosh. The labor cost as a percentage of sales has increased. Okay. So we had to bring in people that were full time, and the labor cost did not just go up by the same amount of sales, which we'd like to, or less. Actually, was more. Our labor cost as a percent of sales has increased. I'm surprised at that one. I was looking to see how that was worded. That's a pretty simple question, but there it is. Labor dollars divided by sales dollars. If labor increases faster than sales, you can see the percentage, the numerator is higher than the denominator. Okay, so that would get larger. Number 19. A department wants to increase weekly sales. This is what I was getting to. You want a budget, you're planning a sale. And what if our store sales go from 100 to 120? Or what if my department sales go from 100,000 to 120? Let me figure out what the labor I need. Well, we have a calculation. I know you have a computer and but it's good to understand if our labor productivity, how many of you know your labor productivity in sales per man hour or save per labor hour? It's important to know that. If our labor productivity is $120 per sales hour or labor hour, it needs how many more hours, okay, to support a 20,000 increase in sales at $120 per labor hour. You take 20,000 increase in sales, divide it by your $120 per labor hour. It backs out the number of hours you needed, 167. 167. There it is. Get a picture of that.
Whoops.
And then, okay. So those were the 6 most frequently missed. Christy and I decided we're going to try to keep this to an hour so that you could, bite-sized choose if you would. We had a little introduction of level 2, and then the rest will be in August, level 3. Want to make sure we didn't go past level 1 and 2 without a review in this session. That's what we just did. So the next session and the last one, unless you vote or ask for more. And we had 97 people, and a lot of you are sharing the screen. We had over 180 people sign up for this. Some are going to wait for the recording. I see, Christy, 97 people still on, and I know for a fact there's some computers with 6 or 7 people being shown the same screen. So there are more than that. But let's say 100 folks are watching this. If more than 50 want a session 4, and we'll go on, and we'll go on with this. And as John said, and I was really surprised because of what a generous offer. If your company uses numbers a little bit differently, you don't call a cat a cat. You call it something else. We'll talk your language. John and his team will go in and help you do something more specific for your company to educate your managers. That's his offer. He's the CPA. They'll be there to help you. But this is the date and time for session 3. Mostly with John. I'll get on. I'll ask those questions that I think you might be wanting to ask when he talked about CTO and other terms that you may not understand. Greater penetration of ad penetration. What the hell is that? Well, most of you knew it, but maybe some of you didn't. Let me ask those questions for you when John's teaching, and then we'll have a wrap up and we'll go from there. Folks, Christy and FMS allowed me to make a little pitch for a program I'm most proud of. It's called Supermarket Smarts 1.0. If you see the red band in the upper left-hand corner, it's a 25th year of doing this. 18 years I did it live, and then with COVID, I try to do a Zoom. It's 3 days, 4 hours a day in January, 3 days, 4 hours a day. And believe it or not, my average rating in that class, God's honest truth, I ask everybody who attended live, was 96.1. Probably my greatest achievement as a teacher. 96.1. It was the average grade for the class we averaged 75 managers a class for 20 years, 18 years actually. With the Zoom, we were averaging 94.7. So it dropped a point and a half going from live and all the fun of being together to a Zoom, which people said is impossible. We did it. If you're interested in, and this is for rising store managers, assistant managers, department managers who want to be store managers, email me and right there in the bottom, and we'll send you information. I want to do this at least 3 more years before I ride off into the sunset. It's my favorite class to teach. Again, old managers who need a little extra oomph, a little retreading, a little bit more of inspiration, see new ideas. New managers who want to get a great head start. Rising managers from the department ranks will work. Let me know if you have an interest, and we'll send you some information. Okay, Christy, what about other information on other things FMS is doing?
Right. Yeah, I made a slide for this, guys. If you're interested in some of the other resources we have available, we have our YouTube channel. We have a Profit Leader Masterclass webinar we did last year that has all kinds of information. So you can head to our YouTube channel. And then also on our website, if you go under resources, we have blog posts. We have our weekly Pulse newsletter that has all kinds of good information, weekly numbers for all independent grocers. So anyway, so feel free to check those out, or if you need links, just email me and I'll get that to you.
Do I have to be an FMS customer, Christy, to get to those?
No, this is open, and you can go to any of these. You don't have to be a customer.
And there's like a $100 charge per session that I go to attend. What's the cost of these?
These are all free.
All free. Who does that? I mean, who does that? Folks, I'm very proud of Christy. I know, and she's thanked me. I didn't ask for any money to do this. I love teaching, and I know this is something we need to do. Christy saw the need too. We roped John Klein into helping us teach it, and I hope we've made a dent in your desire to become more aware of supermarket math. If you can speak the language, you experience the life, your career with a lot more richness than if you kind of hacking your way through it, right? So let's wait for session 3 to see if we can complete your desire to get a better grasp on supermarket math. So Christy, thank you for your time. And look at that, 1 o'clock straight up. We think we kept our promise. Geez, who wrote a book on time management? I don't know. Here we go. All right, folks. Thank you all for your attention, and see you next month. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Harold. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.